Hey everyone, welcome to yet another rendition of Path of Exile content, and today we are doing a toxic Rain Deadeye that goes Tsum but also handles bossing like a champ. Now before I go in depth with this build, I want you to know that if you happen to have any sort of knowledge when it comes to building toxic Rain, then this video is probably not gonna give you any new ideas. In fact, I'd say that this is a pretty standard toxic Rain procedure. However, as you all know, when it comes to Ranger ascendancies for toxic Rain, Pathfinder is probably your first option with Raider as the second and Deadeye last. But after tackling plenty of endgame stuff with this build, I am here to tell you that the Deadeye slaps. And to prove it, you'll see Cozy's on wave 20 in the Simulacrum, Chayula on a charged Bridgestone, Cirrus on Awakener 8 and a 90% gamer Maven fight. You'll see what I mean with that 90%, but this character can tackle all of that flawlessly, alongside some random gameplay here and there. But this build is not for the faint of heart. The most important thing to keep in mind is that speed is vital for Toxic Rain, as we want to stack as many pots as fast as possible to deal the big DPS, so we are gonna do whatever we can to get as much speed. In fact, we are gonna become half Raider in our quest for speed, and you'll see what I mean in the gear section of the video. And alongside speed, area of effect is equally as important. However, we are gonna go through some obscure routes to obtain some area mods, since the right side of the tree is a bit lackluster in that regard. We are also building for duration, which is the third important aspect of Toxic Rain, since we want to stack as many pots and we want them to overlap with each other, and by stacking as much duration as possible, we are gonna be able to deal damage in a more consistent manner. But there are also some caveats to this character. The build requires investment. Some of the gear can be traded, but also some of it requires manual crafting, especially if you want obscure stuff on it. And believe me that this character has a lot of obscure gear equipped, which makes this a hell of a lot more fun, but then again it's also going to make this a little bit harder to gear and a bit more expensive. The other caveat is defenses. This character was built with the Sumis in mind, so your first layer is gonna be the good old just don't get hit, and when that fails, dodge and evasion are gonna help us from time to time, but otherwise be warned that stuff does hit hard. Though with the new Gale Force mechanic, I did find myself eating some damage here and there. But yeah, try to manually avoid as much stuff and you'll be fine. Also, if you happen to come across this build guide after 3.13 and you're planning to late start with this, I'm just gonna tell you, no. If Toxic Rain or Deadeye didn't get slapped by a nerf or two, I recommend playing this as your third build, mostly due to the investment and the obscure gear that the character wears. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, hey, if you are new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, a rating and a comment are always appreciated. And with that, fasten your seatbelts, because this is what Anakin meant as pod racing. Alright everyone, you all know the procedure, gear time, and the first thing is a bow that has damage over time multiplier as a fractured suffix, alongside +1 level of socketed gems and +2 levels of socketed bow gems, while we also multicraft chaos damage over time multiplier and attack speed. And optimally we want the alternate quality craft from harvest that gives you 1% area of effect per 4% quality. The base doesn't matter, but I like movement speed, so Maraketh bows are my go-to. Now I am aware that I probably offended some min-maxer out there because my bow does not have the correct mod setup. Officially, you're supposed to get attack speed, damage over time multiplier and +1 level of socketed gems as regular mods, and then you multicraft chaos damage over time multi alongside +2 levels of socketed support gems. That combination gives you like a 500,000 more DPS. However, my bow works just fine and tends to be an easier combination to acquire, especially if you get damage over time multi as a fracture mod. Moving on, the body armor is our first step into becoming half Raider. You see, speed is very important, and because of that I wanted Frenzy's on hit on the body armor. And since I had an Awakener orb lying around, I slammed Exploding mod together with the Frenzy's, while also having to craft life and increased life. Until you can afford something similar, just the Frenzy's on hit alongside life and resistances is fine, otherwise Carcass Jack can do no wrong here. For the helmet, life, resistances and Toxic Rain fires 1 additional arrow, and since I am on a one-man crusade to avoid elemental elements, we are crafting that modifier, so we need an open suffix on the helmet. Moving to the quiver, life, a resist and both damage over time multiplier and chaos damage over time multiplier. These are a bit expensive together, but both mods give us a crap ton of damage, especially for single target, so I will say that it's in your best interest to acquire one as soon as possible. Otherwise, a similar quiver with just the chaos damage over time multiplier and as much life and resistances is a decent option. Now for the amulet, harvest is gonna be a bit of a requirement because we want life, either +1 level of dexterity or chaos gems, resistances and and chaos damage over time multiplier. We are also bench crafting mana cost of skills, and also anointing either aspect of the eagle, atrophy or corruption. I mentioned using harvest on the amulet because I forced chaos resistance and chaos damage over time multiplier on mine by slamming chaos modifiers. I paid like 90 chaos for the amulet without those, and through harvest this amulet became an absolute unit, so keep that in mind when gearing up. The first ring has life, resistances, despair on hit, and we craft more mana cost of skills. The other ring is what turns us into a pseudo raider. We want onslaught on hit as the implicit, alongside life, a resist, mana cost, and if you can craft aspect of the spider on it, that will be great. However, I crafted mine by spamming essences of envy until I had room for both the aspect and the mana cost craft. Moving to the gloves, life alongside damage over time and a maximum frenzy. Both of those modifiers are warlord influenced, with some chaos resistance sprinkled on them and another elemental avoidance craft. Now, yes, chaos damage over time multiplier is good, but it's only better if you cannot get something like my gloves with similar prefixes. Plus, remember speed is king, so that extra frenzy was my goal all along. For the belt, a Stygian Vice with life and resistances. Influence doesn't matter, so don't worry about that one. And if you can craft increased damage, that will be great. The Abyss Jewel has life, strength and damage over time while wielding a two-handed weapon. And finally, for boots, a series step with an increased life corrupted implicit. Though Redeemer influenced boots with chance to dodge attacks and spells are also good. But yeah. For flasks, I like using a quartz alongside Dying Sun and Witchfire Brew. For the Maven fight, my flasks were enchanted through harvest for extra maximum charges. That's how I sustain them. Not mandatory, but I will recommend doing that if you can. But that's it for the gear. And I am aware that some of this gear is actually freaking nuts. As I mentioned previously on other videos, chaos resistance is now a necessity, so expect to spend more currency forcing it anywhere and everywhere you can. However, do not disharvest, as the garden plays an important role min-maxing the gear, but do keep in mind that investing the exiles is gonna be a requirement. I'd say I spent roughly 20 exiles and relied on harvest for some others. So with all of that said, let's talk about the skill tree. Alright, so this is a level 96 ranger. We side with no bandits, and for pantheons either Lunaris or Solaris, especially if you can upgrade them. But for lesser ones, I like using Tukohamas since we do a bit of standing still here and there. For the ascendancy, we are a Deadeye since you know, she got buffed and she also provides some nifty bonuses. We are gonna spec into Gathering Winds for Tailwind and Gale Force, Windward to take less damage per Gale Force, Occupying Force to have additional stationary Mirage Archers, and Endless Munitions to fire 2 additional projectiles. Now for the rest of the skill tree, we are gonna start by going through the life nodes into Finesse, and from there on out move towards the Zion area, grabbing Avatar of the Hunt on the way. We want life, but we also want exceptional performance for the duration bonuses. However, once you have your resistances overcapped, we are gonna socket a Thread of Hope, with a very large ring to allocate Potency of Will for more duration, Harrier for speed and Profane Chemistry for some life. Once we are done there, we take the entire Crystal Skin Wheel, because alongside the crafts on the gloves and helmet, that makes us elemental element immune. This means that we cannot be shocked, chilled or ignited, and I will absolutely recommend investing into that defensive layer, especially nowadays. Anyways, we move through the Life Herbalism cluster towards Master Fletcher, and then we grab both the dodge stuff and the cluster jewel socket, which is gonna house another currency sink. An 8 passive large cluster jewel with unspeakable gifts, unwaveringly evil and wicked pull. But we are only allocating 5 passives here, avoiding unspeakable gifts. I rolled this one on my second try on harvest and equipped it because it was borderline free, but this combination is expensive. Because of that, you can also go with Touch of Cruelty, Unholy Grace and Wicked Pull on an 8 passive jewel, to make things quote-unquote cheaper. Anyways, we also want 2 medium cluster jewels, with 5 passives at most. One has Exposure Therapy and Wicked Pull, and the other one has Eternal Suffering and Wicked Pull. Wicked Pull is the most important node on these cluster jewels, as it is going to extend the duration of Toxic Rain. Coming back to the tree, we take Hunter's Gambit from the left side, life through Revenge of the Hunted, more life through Blood Drinker, some damage, some life, more area of effect and damage, and we move left through Entropy, grabbing speed, life and a bit more damage. From there, you allocate your frenzies if you have the chest with frenzies on hit, and we also allocate some jewel sockets. The first Jewel socket has Intuitive Leap to grab Method to the Madness for Chaos damage and Chaos resistance, and Charisma for mana reservation alongside Aura effect. The other important Jewel is a Replica Conqueror's Efficiency with an Area of Effect Corrupted implicit. This Jewel gives us reduced mana cost and skill effect duration, two very useful things for this build, so no skipping, okay? And the rest of the Jewels have increased maximum life alongside damage stuff or attributes that the build requires. But with all of that said, let's wrap up this build's nonsense with the gem setups. In the weapon, a level 21 with 20 quality Toxic Rain linked to Divergent Mirage Archer, Awakened Vicious Projectiles and power level 4, Swift Affliction and Awakened Void Manipulation. Now, we don't use Awakened Swift Affliction because that shortens the duration of the skill. If we had the other kind of bow where support gems get more levels, then Awakened Swift Affliction is the play. But if you get a bow like mine, then the non-awakened gem is fine. Anyways, in the gloves, Skitterbots, Malevolence and Flame Dash, while having all three linked to Enlighten level 3 or 4. In the body armor, Wither linked to Spell Totem, multiple totems and faster casting. And in the helmet, Valve Light on a single socket, while also having a Spell Slinger linked to Second Wind with another Lonesome Portal. We have a Spell Slinger here, especially as the left click skill, and this is because we gain Gale Force stacks through using a skill, so by having an instant no mana cost skill like Spell Slinger, we can keep stacking Gale Force for free. But with all of that said, let's wrap up this rather long video, which is gonna get a bit longer actually, thanks to the Maven fight at the end. Anyways, this character is what I'd consider a proper big boy build. Mapping is a breeze, rituals are a breeze, and bosses, while not particularly fast, were also more than doable. At the end of the day, this is a damage over time build. The damage it dishes out is not instant, it requires ramp up, and we are gonna help the ramp up by having a hefty chunk of attack speed alongside some area of effect to make sure that the pots overlap and we deal the dips. This is why you don't use conk effect on the setup, it breaks the DPS, even if the GM looks pretty on paper. At the same time, I will advise not taking Swift Affliction until you have plenty of duration through the Scion area nodes and the Wicked Pal stacking. Swift Affliction looks great on paper too, but until the duration is covered, it is going to break your damage. Having said all of that, Deadeye is really a solid choice for this kind of build. In fact, I'd say that it gives Pathfinder a run for her money as the best option. And I say this because Deadeye brings speed, clear potential, damage and damage reduction. Things that Trickster used to have, but after 3.13 I wouldn't take him as the best option anymore. Sure, having the Mirage Archers be stationary is off-putting at first, but you grow to like their mechanic. Once you learn to stack those Vein diagrams with the Mirage Archers, clearing and bossing becomes a breeze, as you've seen throughout the video. Now, I keep saying this, but I wanna touch the subject again. This is not a budget build. This character requires good gear. Harvest can help fixing resists and maybe forcing some damage here and there, but other stuff like the item bases or specific modifiers are gonna have to be manually acquired. We need to roll the dice on some of this equipment, so get ready. And to really wrap up this video, this is a solid do everything character. I was not expecting the single target to be really as good as it ended up being, but it went beyond my expectations. Fortunately, through selling Harvest crafted gear and mapping fast, I was able to recoup my investment on the character, and once I am done playing with her, I should be able to quickly double the profit. Stonks. But yeah, that is it for this character. Absolute unit that handles beautifully. So if you happen to have the exiles and the need for speed, I'd say do not skip on this one. I guarantee that you'll have too much fun. And with that said, thank you so much for watching tonight's content. Be sure to subscribe and I'll catch you again soon with more videos. Take care, have a nice rest of your week, and I'll leave you with the Maven fight. Peace out.
I'm not up to that just yet.
The prize piece comes to join my collection. A cascade of pain. Stand still. A cascade of pain.
Pain will be returned tenfold. Space aligns. Behold my collection.
I will have what I want. Death will not be an escape. Scurry! Scurry! A cascade of pain!
Death made real.
Stand still! A cascade of pain! Stand still!
Death made real.
Why?
Resistance will be punished. Time contorts. Scurry, scurry.
My irritation is growing. Do what I say. Death will not be an escape. Scurry, scurry. A cascade of pain.
Death made real.
Stand still. A cascade of pain. Stand still.
Death made real.
I'm not up to that just yet.
The prettiest piece makes the whole. Stand still. How?
Stop resisting. Reality bends. Punishment inescapable.
Arrogant toy. Take this. Death will not be an escape. Scurry, scurry. A cascade of pain. Take this. Stand still. A cascade of pain. Take this. Stand still. Death will not be an escape. Scurry, scurry. Take this.
Caretaker!